The stronger performers among Asia's large BBB rated economies, supported by solid growth prospects and resilient external buffers. In a report, Fitch Ratings projects Philippine growth at 5.7% in 2026, making it the second fastest growing among the 5 Asian BBB sovereigns next to India. The debt watchers said the country continues to benefit from strong medium-term growth driven by infrastructure spending, estimated at about 4.3% of the GDP, along with ongoing reforms to improve the business climate. External buffers also remain firm, with ample foreign exchange reserves and steady remittance inflows helping outweigh trade deficits. Fitch, however, flagged risks from lower government spending tied to the corruption scandal, as well as weak governance scores, particularly on corruption and political stability. Still, it said sustained growth and solid external fundamentals continue to underpin the country's investment-grade rating. Sluggish growth and a still benign inflation outlook are giving the Bangko Sentral room to consider a 6th straight rate cut at its first policy meeting this year. In a Business World poll conducted last week, all 16 analysts expect the Monetary Board to cut the benchmark rate by another 25 basis points. If realized, the policy rate would fall to 4.25% from the current 4.5%, the lowest in over 3 years. The Bangko Sentral has also so far cut rates by 200 basis points since August 2024. They said the weak fourth quarter GDP print may tip the balance in favor of further easing, as full-year 2025 growth slowed to 4.4%. Several analysts expect the cut to support consumption and investment, although some see a possible pause later in the year if inflation begins moving back above 3%. After this week's meeting, the Monetary Board still has 5 more rate-setting meetings scheduled for the year. The government plans to open the mining rights for Semirara Island to competitive bidding after rejecting the renewal request of the Kunsuni-led operator. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin said the Department of Energy will follow the Justice Department's opinion that Semirara Mining and Power Corporation cannot extend its 50-year coal operating contract beyond 2027. Instead, the contract will be offered through public bidding this year, with SMPC allowed to participate alongside other interested firms. The original contract was issued in 1977 and extended in 2008, giving SMPC exclusive rights to mine coal on the island until July 2027. The company had sought a further 13-year extension. SMPC is the country's largest coal producer, accounting for about 97% of domestic output. For the first 9 months of 2025, coal shipments hit a record of nearly 13 million metric tons, although revenues declined due to lower prices. The National Telecommunications Commission has set a minimum asset requirement of 100 million pesos for companies seeking to operate core network services under the Konektadong Pinoy law. The NTC said applicants must also prove technical and financial capability to deliver reliable and secure data transmission services and maintain infrastructure. According to the Commission, qualified participants may apply across different network segments but must meet asset and debt ratio thresholds, including a 70% debt-to-asset limit. The Konektadong Pinoy Act aims to streamline licensing and boost competition in the telecom sector, with several local and foreign firms already expressing interest to enter the industry. He cut his 2026 growth forecast to 5.2% on the back of a confidence shock from the flood control scandal, softer public infra spending, and wary consumers. With us for more is the research head and chief economist of Security Bank, Angelo Taninco. It's good having you back here, Jello. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Cathy.
Okay, so where do you stand? You were standing at the middle of the pack. I saw in the last Business World poll, when the fourth quarter and full-year GDP forecast came out, you were at 4.2 to 4.8, respectively. Now you're at 5.2. So how did you get there with that forecast of 5.2 for the full year?
After seeing the Philippine GDP being the second worst performer in ASEAN, next to Thailand last year, We think that there is now room for some confidence-driven growth recovery this year. We think that the GDP growth can top 5%, albeit at a gradual pace in terms of sequential uptick. And we saw capital formation, for example, in negative territory last year, specifically in the fourth quarter because of the halt in construction. We think construction will resume. Capital formation, such as private sector spend, will also recover as early as the first quarter. In fact, we saw the manufacturing PMI bouncing back at 52.9, and that is the best performance for PMI readings in the region.
Now, you made a mention of confidence-led recovery, and a lot of that confidence really is in the private sector. What do you think is going to have to change to make the private sector take the lead in this recovery, if public infra isn't at the moment?
Yes, after seeing that the corruption scandal heightened in terms of its impact on market sentiment late last year, we think that we have seen already the worst. So moving ahead, the private sector is now back at its plans of expanding, though they are cautiously optimistic. So we have talked to several of them from the manufacturing side to the supply chain industries, and we have seen a upbeat tone coming from several companies.
When you say several and that upbeat tone, where is that coming from, in which sectors, and which ones are still showing a little bit more caution?
Well, manufacturing is one, and that is also indicated in the renewal of orders, the order demand, and the production side.
Those who also export.
Yes. The export market is still favorable. In fact, the export performance has beaten expectations last year. We think that can continue to be the case for this year. We also see hope from the tourism side. It was down last year, but because we are hosting ASEAN, that can bode well for tourist arrivals, also for the MICE sector, that can reinvigorate, hotel and accommodation industries. And likewise, consumers continue to spend still. We have seen more consumers now wanting to borrow in order to sustain their spending plans. And therefore, that also would be a big contribution to
Is that right? I mean, borrow not to pay their debt unpaid from last year. Are you getting more anecdotal evidence that it's to spend and sustain their plans this year?
Yes. Well, also you still have the consumer preference for experience. That will remain. Likewise, we have seen also the debt repayments. Still not at a heavy burden because interest rates are relatively low, and it's going to be lower, especially with our view for the BSP to cut the policy rate this coming Thursday by 25 basis points.
Okay, but we've just talked about the growth side. What about reining in inflation? Because really, that's the mission of the Bangko Sentral, is really to rein in inflation. And while growth is slowing, inflation is getting a little faster.
Yes,
and that could be a concern for the Bangko Sentral on Thursday, wouldn't it? I mean, in their discussions when the Monetary Board does convene on Thursday.
That conformed to our expectation of a sequential uptick on inflation because partly low base effects. Last year, it was very low, 1.7% on average. First quarter, we think it can top 2%. We've seen the January inflation on a slight upside surprise at 2%. In the second and third quarter, we think inflation can top 3%. However, the 2 to 4% range will still be intact in our view. So our full-year average inflation of 3.1% is still deemed to be manageable. And hence, we think that there is one more rate cut down the road. After that, because of the lag effects of rate cuts, and that will be a total of 225 basis points, assuming a Thursday cut, then we think that the BSP could pause in order to observe the demand-side effects of the rate cuts that have been delivered in the past 2 years. In fact, core inflation has already picked up in the January print. So that seems to be going to be closely watched by the BSP.
Exactly. To your point, core inflation has picked up. Could there be a chance for a pause this Thursday?
Well, we think it's very little chance for a pause because in terms of the timing, the BSP, if it wants to cut further, it may want to do so as early as Thursday instead of a few months after, when inflation is already accelerating.
Well, what do you make of the messaging so far from the governor? Because the last time we heard from him was last week, and he made a mention that he'd be more concerned about inflation punching up above 3% than if it were to fall below 3%. And also going back a few months ago at the end of the year with him saying, I'm close to the end of cutting.
Yeah, so we are also of that view that we are near the tail end of the monetary easing cycle. And with inflation touching 3% in the middle of the year, then we think that we have to have one rate cut more so that then we pause momentarily so that when inflation picks up further, then we send to the markets the signal that we are already at a pause. And that will bode well for, say, the local currency.
But would it bode well for the interest rate differentials? I mean, the Fed kept rates on hold, and there will be a change in the leadership by May. That would narrow the interest rate differentials and might concern the Bangko Sentral, wouldn't you think?
Well, at a record low 50 basis points, we have seen that interest rate differential late last year. And even though the BSP is not in lockstep with the Fed for the past months, that has not really exerted sharp depreciation pressure on the peso. The depreciation pressure was more on the political factor in the second half. But this year, the outlook on the US dollar itself is bearish. And therefore, the market is expecting more Fed rate cuts, particularly after we saw the weak CPI inflation print last Friday. And the new Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, who we think will be supportive of Trump's rate cuts, would then deliver a cut, we believe, as early as June, and then another as early as September. And therefore, the rates differential will widen by year-end at 100 basis points.
All right, we'll keep an eye on 25 bips as you're expecting with the rest of the poll that we've conducted on Business World. Thank you, Jello.
Thank you,
Much
Cathy.
appreciate your insights. Jello Taninco of Security Bank. And you're watching Money Talks. Coming right up, we speak with Feng Shui Master Marites Allen ahead of the Lunar New Year. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, checking in on the markets. U.S. stocks ended mixed Friday as an AI jitter reversed early gains from better than forecast inflation report. The Dow and the S&P rose by about 0.1% each, while the Nasdaq slid by 0.2%. U.S. inflation for January slowed to 2.4% due to falling gas prices. This is lower than the 2.5% forecast of economists surveyed by the Wall Street Journal. Despite this, fears of AI's disruptive potential caused the markets to post their biggest loss since November. The benchmark 10-year Treasury yields ticked down to 4.055%. Gold prices jumped to $5,022 per ounce. Stock futures are in the green and after hours trading, S&P rises 0.2%. The Dow and the Nasdaq are up by 0.1% each. And U.S. markets are closed Monday in observance of President's Day. Asian markets are trading near flatline this Monday. The Australian ASX 200 and Japan's Nikkei 225 up by less than 0.1% each. South Korea's Kospi is closed until Wednesday for the Korean New Year. And Japan's economy grew by 0.1% in the fourth quarter of 2025, reversing the contraction in the third quarter, but below economists' forecasts of 0.7%. And a quick check in our own markets at the onset of the brand new trading week. PSEI opens this Monday, little change, 6,389. The stock market ended in the red last Friday, down by 1.3% as investors continued to lock in gains following the bourse's recent run-up. Investors are looking forward to this week's corporate earnings and the Bangko Central's policy decision, which may spur positive sentiment in the market. As for the Philippine peso, it opened today stronger, 57.95 to the dollar. The peso rose last Friday to 58.02 to the dollar, the strongest finish since October 8, 2025. The local unit may move sideways this week ahead of the expected BSP rate cut and following the release of softer U.S. inflation print. 10-year government bond yields ticked up to 5.968%. In corporate news, several listed companies have released their earnings this Monday. Jollibee Foods Corporation has posted a 16.6% year-on-year increase in system-wide sales for 2025. Preliminary figures also showed JFC's sales across company-owned and franchise stores for the fourth quarter reached 122.3 billion pesos, its strongest quarter on record. Double-digit growth drivers in its portfolio include Compose Coffee, Highlands Coffee, and Mang Inasal. Meantime, the Balsic Solar Power Plant in Bataan lifted Alternergy's operating revenues for the second quarter of fiscal year 2026 to 188 million pesos. The renewable energy firm expects a further boost in its financial performance ahead of other projects in line this year. And the Asia United Bank posted a record net income of 12.7 billion pesos for 2025, up from 11.4 billion in the previous year. AUB cited its expansion of combined commercial loan portfolio for the 12% net income rise. The Queen of Feng Shui, Marites Allen, ushers in the year of the Fire Horse with a special welcoming ritual and prosperity event in BGC this Lunar New Year. With more than 30 years practicing Chinese astrology, she makes a return to Money Talks to share how leaders can harness the fiery, fast-moving Fire Horse year on what it means for money, work, and enterprise. So good to see you again, Marites. Welcome to the program and Kong Hei Fat Choi singing Kwaila.
Hi.
All right. It seems to be a fiery, fast-moving horse. That's what I'm getting from the vibe that you're already expressing to
and I love
everybody.
your news, by the way. It all sounds
Is it good
positive.
news?
It's very
that
positive.
sounds good because
I'm
we've had
excited.
really, really bad news over the past few months with the flood control scandal.
Exactly.
Was that something that you caught in the slow-moving snake year?
Well,
Just
we
to
were
recap?
saying that, in the year of the wood snake, it was like, uncovering, shedding off the skin. So yes, we were able to see some of the never expected discoveries, right?
So it was really slow business, and that's the
Yes.
kind of anecdotal conversations you've had with business
a lot of people
folks
as
and
well.
leaders.
Yes.
So how then are they going to make that shift? If it's a fiery, fast-moving horse, how to make better time decisions then?
Yeah, so basically when it's a fire energy, it actually talks about optimism. Think of the fire horse as the sun, right? So it actually gives you like this optimism. So it's gonna be a very optimistic time for everybody. This is the time for you to act. So if the wood snake was about uncovering and shedding off, this is like, it's already here. What are you gonna do about it? So accountability is here. It's already being seen. So people are becoming so conscious about it. And accountability, integrity is very important as well. So actually, I'm very positive for the year because, very seldom, whenever it's a fire energy year, it's actually a very active year.
An active year in terms of, and you put that into context, accountability. In fact, I
Yes.
caught one of the things that you said, the forecast suggests a period of heightened public awareness and youth influence where accountability takes center
Exactly.
stage. Where is this going to lead up to then?
Yes, so basically the chart of the year is actually with zero water element, so that's why it's very dry. It calls for cooling off. But then because our natural chart between the Philippines and of course the year of the fire horse, it actually calls that the younger generation, the voices of the young generation will actually have a very big effect in the overall, management or accountability from whoever needs to be accountable with. But then at the end of the day, I would say that treat the fire horse year as a positive year in a way because it's just really like, again, think of a sun, which is actually the optimism, the energy is there. And at the same time, you also have to hold off your reins because if you go very fast without the proper analytical or strategy behind it, it can also lead you to anywhere. So treat Feng Shui as a forecast. It's like a weather forecast. Mm-hmm. It's not really a prediction. It could go this way, but because the wind could blow to a different direction.
Are you feeling a bit of a vibe that says regime change in the Philippines?
Well, not really. But then basically, and I hope not. But basically, if you look at the history, Philippines is a revolutionary government. I always say this because the birth of the Philippines on June 12, 1898 was actually coming from another, we never had like a birth, like a Philippine birth that is like smooth. There's always something that's going on, right?
I didn't mean to go back so far into history, but then it's interesting that you put into context that everybody's just gotta make sure they get measured responses to a very fiery horse. But perhaps there are some sectors that are going to do a lot better. Than most. Or
yes. So basically,
so which ones?
These ones are like renewable energy, which actually you have mentioned. Because, at the end of the day, electricity, power is very important. I am really hoping, honestly, that the tourism industry would go so well because we lack the water element industry. That's why colors black, blue, and gray, are very important for the year. So I hope that our 7,000 islands would be visited by even starting from the locals, making it affordable to everybody. It's very important as well. Cybersecurity is a key because a lot of people now, AI is not coming. It is already here. So make sure that the companies had to adapt to that. So cybersecurity is very important. Doing a lot of accountability, if your company, maybe the blockchain technology is actually, I'm sure you have some news about it, that it is really one of the most important things that we could do. So those preventions are very important. And it's gonna kick off in this year of the fire horse.
I hope I'm not gonna have to wear black, blue, and gray for the rest of the year just to bring in the luck.
Now, tomorrow you should wear though the red because
it's
Chinese
okay, I
New
was
Year
just
Day.
going to say because it's a fiery, fast-moving horse.
Yes.
Stay away from red, but no.
Well,
you're wearing a
tomorrow
lovely red
is a
outfit.
Chinese New Year Day, so it's just one day that you could. But like what I said, it depends on your destiny. So a lot of people, I'm like a walking almanac to a lot of people. Like Maritas, what would I wear in everything? So I said, okay, we have a new project, my baby project that we're gonna talk about, the Stara, that they can actually go and check already your personal elements.
Okay, well, let's pull that up because I found it so interesting that an innovation from your business and
Yes!
your Feng Shui analysis now involves data tracking and involves an app.
Yes.
Now, I wanted to say, if you were a business leader and you've got the knowledge of data and the economics, the macro, we just talked about that in full glory with Jello, and you've got the judgment and you have the Feng Shui analysis.
Thank you.
How do they then put that all together into something cohesive and comprehensive for them to act on in the
Yes.
year of the fire horse?
Thank you for that. So, like what I said, I am like a walking almanac. You've known me for a long time, and at the same time, it's really like, so we created this Tara. It's
Is that the one on your mobile phone?
And it's actually, the QR code is on the screen. It's free to sign up. So the star means destiny is in your star. So guys, if you want to be a part of our founding circle community, and in fact on the alpha stage right now, in the tech world, you only need to get 50 to 100 signups within 6 months. We only just talk about it with our family and friends on February 4, which is like 12 days ago. And we are nearly 1,000 signups.
1,000 signups.
So
and what
on
are you
an alpha
finding
stage.
On alpha stage, then what are you finding are the first interested app takers?
Oh my God, so the app is so beautiful. It's actually free to sign up. You can already check your own profile. You can already get your lucky numbers, lucky directions, lucky colors. You can even have your compatibility, with one another. It already has the built-in almanac as well. And on the almanac, you can already know what type of day is it. Even each hour, it can already tell you if it's lucky or unlucky. At the same time, it gives you that daily forecast. And then like today, it gives you already a daily forecast. It can even tell you what is the percentage of your luck in terms of health, wealth, love, and career. It can give you a better decision. And even at the same time, the built-in compass is already there. And you can even use the augmented reality. So you see my clients from all over the world. So now you can already see which directions you are sitting, right?
Exactly. I'm seeing you there. Is this a live stream?
No, this is... Yeah. This is a demo right now.
I'm curious, you've got that app,
Yes.
and you've got a business leader who's trying to think about what to do next.
Yeah.
What next then? I mean, it's just one format, or at least one item that goes into his decision toolbox, or her
love that.
decision
Yes.
toolbox. How then can one decide smartly in the fire
on a
horse
daily
here?
basis, like what I said, the star is a one tool that one can use on a daily decision making, like even the colors, because it perceives on our day-to-day life. But in terms of decisions, at the end of the day, we have to put our mindset, like, I am a person that I would say when I wake up in the morning, what good can I do today to someone else? Right? Because at the end of the day, we have our obligation to the public. Mm-hmm. I created this Tara as my legacy. It is my way to scale. I cannot duplicate Marites Allen. So thanks to AI, putting my brains into that I'm now able to scale myself, different ages, different nationalities globally.
Well, I'm looking forward to the beta stage. Would you update us? Thank you
Please,
so much.
Thank you
and
so
all the
much.
best in the new year.
I will. You too. Take care.
Marites Allen, a Feng Shui master, speaking to us. That is it for Money Talks. I am Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a great day ahead.